What's up, true believers? Welcome to Greg's Comic Book Club, issue 14. I'm Greg, and this is Joey McCormick. Yay! And you might say, who the fuck's Joey McCormick? And I understand, because I didn't know it till he emailed me, because he made this book, The Great Wiz and the Ruckus. Now, here's the thing, Joey McCormick. Thank you for coming up, first off.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. You came all the way up here to hang out with us. That's great. You do this. Of course, how this happens is you reach out, not because, hey, I hear you have a comic book show and I wanna pimp my book. You reach out because you're a Kind of Funny best friend.
Yeah, totally.
How long you been paying attention to me and Kind of Funny and all that jazz?
Back to the Beyond days.
Hell
I
yeah.
guess when I first started working in house at studios,
Sure.
I needed some background noise, and I found I would go to IGN all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, PlayStation podcast. I'll listen to this. So back OG Beyond.
And so
era.
years and years and years ago, you're listening to Beyond. We weren't watching, we weren't putting it up yet. And then here you are now. You're on a Kind of Funny product promoting your comic book, your graphic novel. How's that feel? Was that weird?
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of a dream come true. Don't want to gush too much, but yeah, this is awesome. While working on this book, there were late nights where I'm just after work grinding on it, trying to get it done, and I'm watching Andy stream or watching you guys just catching up on stuff Marvel in review, something like that, something I missed. So to get to come on here and be a part of it, that's insane. I never thought that would happen.
So that's it. So I want to start right from the top. So tell me, where does the journey here begin? Because you have a day job, a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You work on a show called Rick and Morty.
Yes, some people might know it.
I think people have heard it. Kevin likes it quite a bit.
Kevin's a fan.
And while I have you, what's Justin's problem? You know what I mean? Because every time we're together, he's like, oh yeah, I'd love to come to the shows. We'll text about games and coming on shows, and then he's always too busy.
He's
You know what I
the
mean?
busiest guy ever.
Because
I'll be at work and I'm like, he's on H3 right now. I thought he was in a design review right now. What's going on? It's crazy. The dude's I don't know. It must be pretty cool to be that talented and that desirable.
Well, I think exactly. I think you got something up your sleeve here in terms of talent.
Maybe a tiny bit.
So, did you? What is your degree? You're an artist? Is that how you define yourself? But you wrote the book, but you wrote and you illustrated the book. I don't know how to put you in a box, and that struggles. That's a struggle for me.
I don't know how to do that because I wouldn't call myself a comics creator or a comic artist because I've only I did this.
You created one.
Yeah, I created one. I feel you got to do a couple before you get into that. But I've worked in animation for years now, and I still feel weird being I work in animation.
So how does it? Did you go to college? Okay. So
I
be an artist?
studied animation and sequential art. I minored in sequential art or comic books.
Sure.
At SCAD in Savannah, Georgia. Graduated from there. Eventually got an internship at a commercial house in New York City. Worked there for a couple years. That's actually when I first started listening to you guys. This is probably 2012, 2013.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And then, just kind of, kept being flexible, hopping for work. Lived in Atlanta for a while, working at Bento Box Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Then from there, got a job at Disney out in LA because of working at Bento Atlanta through did pre-design on this show that ended up getting greenlit at this studio, and one thing led to another, and just in LA doing animation, floating studio to studio.
Sure. So how long have you been with the Rick and Morty team now?
This is my first season. Season 4 is my first season. Yeah, so I just started on, or I guess I started back in October on season 4.
Okay.
But I'd worked with a lot of that crew on previous shows. The show Final Space that I worked on. Not last summer, but the summer before. Another sci-fi show had a ton of Rick and Morty people on it. The art director for the show, he was my art director when I was working at Disney, my first big studio job I was working for. And me and him became pretty good friends, and just, they had a spot available. I was available. It worked out, and they're like, hey, you want to come work on Rick and Morty? I'm like, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty good gig to get.
I think so. Yeah, that's getting on Simpsons way back in the day, when it was the hottest thing. So definitely wanted to get that under my belt.
So then, how old are you?
29.
Wow, okay. You've lived a life. You've lived a life already. Hopping around.
Traveled, yes.
And is that how it works in terms of being in animation? It's kind of incestuous, I guess, of people moving around. You knew this person from that team, so now they call you and you do this and you bump around.
Absolutely. The hardest job you'll get in animation is your first job because you don't have those contacts that you need to build. And it sucks. It's frustrating. But once you get in, you start meeting people. People get to know you. They're like, oh, this person works great. Let's hey, I'm going to this show. We need this person. You want to come on? Yeah. Come on over here. So because we're contractors, we're all animation guild union people.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
So we're just, work for hire, do our stint. Then we jump ship to like that production will end. Hopefully you get another season.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't, you migrate over to another show.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of up in the air work, that kind of thing. But yeah, just float studio to studio, job to job.
Do you think that video games should unionize developers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What are the benefits of somebody who's in a union and does this stuff?
Well, I think there's a lot of negativity about unions because you're thinking kind of old school unions where like
a Teamster can't do this. And only a Teamster can do this. And it's going to cost you $3,000.
Exactly. Like I think
it's moving a box.
Yeah, it's just moving. Like we have to deal with that at studios sometimes. Like at Disney, they have a specific union that sets up desks, and they have a specific union that sets up your computer. And so it's like, oh, I can't move that right now, and like that's frustrating. But as far as game union, it would probably be similar to animation, where you don't have all that difficulties. If before I was in the union, they still hired me, and they're like, hey, you're in the union now, pay your entrance dues, pay your quarterlies, welcome aboard. Like, there you go. Now you have someone, you have really good health insurance.
Sure.
Like for as long as you're in there, plus you bank hours constantly. So like I could be out of work for the next couple of years and I still have health insurance.
Oh,
which
nice.
Is like,
okay.
As someone who's going to have a kid soon, like that's awesome.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah,
pretty nice. And then
yeah.
adding my wife on our health insurance was like, I don't know, a couple $100 a year.
Gotcha.
Like, that's nice.
Because I guess the way you make it sound, right, is like you guys come in, you do the job, hopefully it continues. But if it doesn't, you go out and you bounce to the next project through the union, right?
Yeah.
That would be the argument, I guess, for video game developers, right? Of they finish their game, and this is more for people, I guess, hired, not like studio heads, obviously, but you're hired on to finish the game gets finished, and they wind down that part of the production, right? So then those people are laid off.
Yeah.
Where do they go? Usually they'd be out in the wind, hopefully with severance, maybe, but there's no promise, and there's no healthcare for sure after a while.
Yeah.
Unions sound great.
Yeah, it's
Kevin,
nice.
I swear to God, if you and Barrett unionize.
You guys should. It's great.
No, don't listen to him.
Dude, the employees have the
I'm the man in this
power.
scenario. I'm the man. I'll replace you all with SF State kids, Kevin.
No, not those kids.
Yeah, they're young and nubile.
Jesus Christ.
What? We're on a show. It's fine. This is what the kids are paying for. The nubile kids who watch this are paying for that. Kevin, would it shock you to tell you I'm not 100% sure what nubile means?
Yeah,
I know. Do you know what I know it from?
The sex thing.
What?
It's like is it not a porno thing or?
No, I know it from Mallrats, right?
Oh.
Didn't Brody said nubile at some point? I don't know. Whatever. I digress. Kevin, Google the term.
Yeah, I don't know what that
really
means.
I want to make that clear.
It does sound like a sex term, though, doesn't it?
A nubile.
Nubile. Nubile.
There's like some sex channel that's.
Well, I'm sure. I think it just means like a toned body.
Can you just go?
Yeah. Okay. It's an adjective.
Thank you.
Nubile.
Nubile. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sexually attractive.
Don't act like you knew what it was.
Oh, no. Yeah, we use that all the time. That's
We throw that around all the time.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's got two definitions here on dictionary.com.
Sexual.
They're both sexual. It's sexually attractive and then sexually mature, semicolon, suitable for marriage. And then both of them in the front, they'll have a parentheses of a girl or young woman. But I think you can apply it to anything.
Well, it's just your opinion, man.
Well, it's 2018, 19. I can apply it to anything I want.
Yeah.
So you go and you're working on Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
How does that lead? How do you get? And you don't consider yourself a comic book art or a comic book creator. How do you get this book? How do you get the whiz going?
So I guess it's kind of weird. Like, again, it's one of those things where it's like sometimes you just know the right person at the right time.
Sure.
And one of my buddies gave me an editor's contact at Boom Studios, which I did the book for, and I was just like contacting them like, hey, I'm an illustrator. I'd like to do like covers or something, colors. I don't know. Like, I don't do comics. And the editor got back to me and she's like, hey, you want to do a variant cover for Adventure Time? I'm like, that sounds sweet.
Nice.
And then fast forward like a year, I was just like, working my day job, working animation, kind of when you're a background designer or painter, you're in a box and this is what you do.
Sure.
And when I first started out, I worked in commercial as a freelancer doing like animation, compositing, design, like so jumping around all these jobs, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. And it was really exciting and fresh. Like it was fun kind of trying on these hats and moving around. And after being on,
oh, hey, Kevin just won Tetris 99 for the first time.
Excuse me.
this is a big moment. I'm glad I'm here for that. So being at a studio job where I'm there for 9 months at a time, or like, I think at the time I'd been at Disney for like a year and a half doing background design. So I just kind of wanted to broaden my horizons. And so I just started experimenting with comics to see what happens. And I was just like practicing, like doing like really simple 1-page comics and then like 5-page comics, just like not great, but just trying it. And then I remember I was like on the bus on the way to work and I was reading Prophet. I don't know if you've read
I'm
the
not
new
sure. I don't know
Prophet
Prophet,
from
no.
Image. It's an old Rob Liefeld book
Okay.
that they kind of redid, and they have these like bunch of different artists on it. It's really cool, really bizarre, like space sci-fi story about all these like guys sent out, and they're all John Prophets, and they're like kind of rebuilding a force together, I guess. And I was like, I want to do this, like, because I had pitched a couple like animated shows that didn't really go anywhere.
Sure.
And I was like, well, comics are cheaper to make. Like, I could just release it online if I wanted to. So I just I looked up what Image required to like for their pitches.
Yeah.
It's like synopsis, outline, a little bit about the author, and like 6 finished pages. I'm like, I can do that. Like,
No sweat, I got that.
Yeah, I'm doing so many backgrounds a week. I can just like do that. So I started messing around, put my pitch together, sent it to Image. I was like, it'd be good because they're definitely going to buy this.
Yeah,
Because
of
if
course.
I just got ahead on this book and just finished like a full issue myself.
Sure.
And so I started doing that. Of course, never hear back from me.
Of course
like
not.
nothing there.
Kirkman wasn't ringing your phone
Yeah,
off
no,
the hook, right?
I guess he might have lost the email.
Yeah.
Like sometimes mine goes to spam. Like he's
Yeah.
going to kick himself later. I bet.
Sure, of course. Yeah, well, when he sees how great here.
Yeah, here it is.
The Great Wiz. It's in the title. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's in the title. But no, I was just thinking through this like one issue I made. It's like, oh, maybe I can pitch this to get.
And was this what you were making? You were making the
Yeah,
Great
I
Wiz
made
and the-
like I'm a huge fan of like wizards and fantasy and all that dorky stuff.
Nerd.
So I did it. Yeah, total nerd. So I made like one issue of that if this would be released as like issues instead
Yeah.
of like a full graphic novel. So I sent that to the editor I'd worked with at Boom before, saying like, hey, I just like. Here's something I made. I want to see if I can draw comics. Like,
Sure.
See if you got anything. And they got back to me pretty quickly, asking if I wanted to write and illustrate a short for Adventure Time comics, where they kind of they bring a bunch of artists in, let them kind of have fun, play with like the characters. And I pitched a few stories. They let me do one. So I did like a 12-page story about like Finn getting lost in this world of giants.
And same idea that you wrote it and drew.
Yeah, I wrote it,
Okay,
Andrew. And I got to color that one. I didn't color this. Whitney Koger colored this. She's amazing and
Yeah,
like,
it's beautiful.
It's the best part.
Your
of the
art's
book
great
by
too,
far.
obviously.
No,
The
but
story's
her
good too,
coloring
obviously.
is
The
really
colors are
good.
really bright.
Yeah, the colors like totally sell it.
Yeah.
So I did a 12-page story. After I did that, they were like, do you want to do 4 issues of Adventure Time? And my wedding was coming up and I wanted to work in comics. I'm like, yeah, I could use some extra cash to do this. So
Yeah.
I started doing that. And at the same time, the editor was like, so what's this? What at the time it was called Wizard Party. And they're like,
Gotcha.
what is this? And I was like, just a book I made. Like, do you want to pitch it? And I'm like, okay. And so
Yeah.
they sent me like, this is what we need for this to be a pitch. And I was like, all right. And I started doing it and I had my like family and friends who are writers helping me out. Like, I'm bad at words. Can you like make this nice? And luckily,
Where did the periods go?
Yeah, where did
Yeah,
they go?
yeah.
I'm sorry. My dad gets mad at me all the time with
Yeah.
typing. I'm definitely, that's a really hard word to spell.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Defiantly, no. So yeah, I had a bunch of people helping me out. Just kind of, here's how stories work. Here's how this works. So sent it off, got back to, like, I would get like a check-in once a month from them.
Yeah.
And they were like, everyone loves the story. Everyone loves the artwork. Not thrilled on the coloring because my colors were all black and white at the time.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And 'cause-
Wow, I can't
yeah.
imagine the book being black and
Yeah,
white.
and also it was a little like rough around the edges. So yeah, the whole book was black and
if
white.
you're at home, I mean, look at just on this random page
Yeah,
I grabbed, the colors just
crazy,
pop,
like,
right?
so
and that's
vibrant
like, and that's
and
the thing
lush.
where you do it. I feel like not world to world, but like town to town.
Yeah.
the palette really changes and speaks to where you are in the
Oh,
book.
totally. And it also like helps convey the mood. And so I was just like grayscale and like magic would have color to it.
Yeah.
And so we were going through it and I was editing the colors and the editor was finally like, let me just bring someone in. Let's just try this. And she's like, this is Whitney. She worked on Steven Universe comics, Giant Days. She has a new one
You're like,
coming.
never heard of them.
Yeah, I haven't heard of these huge hits. She's getting ready to do one with what's his name? Pat McHale, the creator of Over the Garden Wall, like a story
Okay.
he did.
Okay.
She's coloring out. That looks amazing. And so she came in, she colored like 6 pages, submitted it, and then like a month later, they're like, it's greenlit. They're like, everyone likes it, like, go. And so then had to write out the whole script, which was really fun, like a really enjoyable process. Then, roughing, cleaning up inks, and then passing off to Whitney to color it, and then Warren to do the lettering, and here we are, like a year later.
My question is that you're talking about you wanted to work on an issue. Was this? Did I miss it? Was this ever released? It was released as a book, right? Just as a graphic novel. Okay.
So when I pitched it, I was like, I want to do like 10 issues or something. Yeah, 10 issues. And they're like, well, original graphic novels are more popular for kids. So
Yeah.
we want to do this as an original graphic novel. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome because like it's in Barnes and Noble. That's like the coolest thing ever. Like walked into a bookstore. I'm like, that's my book. Like there's all these kids running around. I'm like, guys, go
pick this one
why
up.
aren't you
This is
looking
me.
at this?
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
this one. Yeah, it was. It's awesome.
When you set off to write it, were you thinking you're writing a children/young adult?
That's always been kind of more my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like I work in like I work on Rick and Morty now, but prior to that, I hadn't worked in prime time or like adult animation too much. Mostly worked on kids on like Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Hell yeah, you
TV
did.
Show. Dude, such a good movie.
Wait, so did you do backgrounds on that?
Yeah, on
Oh my
the
God.
movie I did backgrounds and paint on it. So
Dude,
fought back and forth.
Those
between
backgrounds
that.
are awesome.
They're amazing. Yeah.
All the jokes you guys hid in there and every DC Comics deep reference you put in there.
had to go on I was watching on the way up and I always forget about the oh man, who are the guys that get lost in the portal? Like,
oh, dude.
The Explorers of the Unknown.
Exactly.
Those guys.
That was such a deep cut of me not even knowing what that DC reference
like
was.
my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I know those guys. Like they're old." I'm like, "Oh,
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I like the movie posters in the back.
Yeah.
They're making fun of everything.
yeah, those are good. Yeah, but I've always been more of a kids focused storytelling. They're kind of fun, can get a little campy, a little
because that when I was
goofy.
reading it, I mean, not blowing smoke, I really had a great time. I really
thank
enjoyed
you.
it. Right in the beginning, I was like, oh, I get it. It's simple and it's gonna be for kids and yada yada yada. But then the more I got, like, you deal with harsh themes, right? Like and like real loss and like the way magic works in the world, right? Is like if you're gonna heal somebody, you're gonna take on the pain and you're gonna have to deal with that. And I was like, wow, that's and like Sad Dad in general. His whole thing of like what's happening with Sad Dad. I was like, dang, like it's definitely for kids, but it's also on a level that I'm appreciating it not reading it to a kid, if you know what I mean. And then your ending even too with Bean and everything else. Like, well, I guess we should do this too. What is the pitch right now? A lot of people are audio listeners. Again, I keep holding up the book, The Great Wiz and the Ruckus, available now, Barnes and Noble and everywhere else, I assume. You should go in the comic store downstairs. But like, do you have this book?
I Googled comic book stores like when it came, because it came out a week early at comic shops.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there on my computer like, all right, my comic shop's back home. Check their listings. Like, oh, they have it. And I was like, oh, maybe the one by Kind of Funny has it. Like, oh, they got it. Like,
Or you should go down there and sign it. They always love stuff.
I'm sure they're like, oh yeah, have this guy.
I'm dead serious. Every comics creator I bring by,
Oh, really?
I go down there. I'm like, hey, this is that person. Well, usually they recognize them, but no offense, you're no Babs Tar yet.
Yeah,
All right, they're not
yeah.
gonna recognize you walking there. They'll have you sign it for sure.
Dude, that'd be sick. Yeah, so I guess the pitch would be it's, 5 whizzes of the realm coming together to stop
The Ruckus.
the Ruckus.
Yeah.
And, that's
The Great Calamity, right?
the Great Calamity. I love that word, calamity.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I thought of that, Breath of the Wild came out, and I was like, oh man, Calamity Ganon, that's like the coolest idea ever. I gotta find a better word, and Ruckus works. But yeah, so the main story is like just a kind of a heartfelt journey, I guess, of people coming together or
Coming
like
of age.
reestablish. Yeah, coming of age. And then I also want to deal with themes of, like, I guess with Red as the main character, he, that feeling we all feel at some point, jumping into a task he wasn't 100% ready for,
Right.
and kind of just like going through the motions to get there before you realize like, oh no, this is like something pretty heavy and serious that I need to make sure everyone is aware of. And, Bean is this young character who's kind of new to wizards and magic and all this kind of stuff. So she's kind of brought along as this kind of fun journey. And then you realize like, oh, this is going to have bigger repercussions for her and the world than they know it. And want to do the themes of like, the needs of the many outweigh those of the few, something like that. Yeah, just all those like, think of others over yourself kind of ideas, I guess.
Yeah, no, and it works. I think, and that's the thing, you had so many interesting character relationships in it, right? Where getting going and like meeting Bog or whatever, right? And we're going and going and going. And then when there's like this thing with Feather Duster, but I don't even know who Feather Duster is yet. I was I was anticipating that meeting of what that was going to look like and what that was going to be and what their story was.
Oh,
and
nice.
I thought you did such a great job of building that tension up to that point. Right?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tried to, because it is an on the road journey, and like for great on the road stories like Stand By Me and things, it's not so much about the overarching story. Like that's important, but it's kind of character moments. Just like, and I've always loved stories with great characters. Like I'll take a crappy plot or whatever, as long as the characters are really good and like you're engaged with them and you care about them. So that's kind of what I wanted to push of like.
Sounds like you're talking about Anthem.
Oh yeah, dude, I want to get in there.
It's good, dude.
My buddy
gameplay's great. I love the characters, the overall thing. I was like, whatever. Story, like, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
I don't care. I enjoyed my moments and my conversations with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of, and I like the social of those kind of games.
Yeah.
Like, because, as we get older, we have less time on our hands. So if I can just hop in, hang out with my buddies for a couple hours, I'm like, all right, I got to go do something now. See ya. Like, it's nice. It's good.
So yeah, that's the Great Wiz and the Ruckus.
That's the Great Wiz and the Ruckus. Yeah, that's it.
It's like Anthem.
It's Anthem. It's the anthem of children's young graphic novels.
It's great, dude. I'm very proud of you as a best friend. I'm glad you made it happen and you got out there and did it.
Yeah, I'm sure some people from the subreddit recognize, because every like now and then I'll be like, hey guys, I had an interview come out, like, and people are like, oh man, I'm gonna get it as soon as it comes out. Thanks so much. So the community's been super supportive and like really cool. Like it's just, I don't know. It's nice, having strangers pat you on the back is always nice.
Well, you're no longer a stranger to them. They know who you are, Joey McCormick. Of course, this is Greg's Comic Book Club. It is. Yeah, I didn't do an intro, Kev. It is a product of patreon.com/kindafunny. For $1, you get this exclusive show on Patreon as an MP3 and video. It'll never go anywhere else unless it's like Free Comic Book Day, and I want to put it out for something like that. But you understand what I'm talking about. Thank you for your support. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, whether it be a review, a comment, a question, your favorite local comic book shop, you can do that at the bronze level on patreon.com/kindafunny. Of course, you can do it at the gold level, or no. Is that right, Kev? Gold level? Yeah, gold level over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. But I'm only going to talk about patreon.com/kindafunny because it's easier. Housekeeping for you. The Kinda Funny World Tour is still rolling on, remember. We're going to Kansas City at the end of March, New York City at the beginning of April, and Vancouver in May. The schedule is up on kindafunny.com/events. Events. Joey, what's the best thing you've read this month?
This month?
Not that it has to be a current book, but you know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the best thing I read. Oh, I guess we talked earlier. PTSD I read on the way up.
Yeah, tell me more about that. You were talking about that, and it sounded really heavy, but really cool.
Yeah, definitely heavy. It's dealing with a woman comes back from war, or I guess the story starts out where she is homeless on the streets, and you find out she is a war veteran, along with a lot of other street people. It kind of has a very post-Vietnam type vibe, where like we're getting flashbacks to her and her squadron comrades in Vietnam kind of fighting, and then it cuts, or them just kind of coming together as a team, and it's like the way the color works in it, those actually feel like the lighter.
And it's called
moments.
PTSD?
Yeah, PTSD. I would say the name of the artist, but his
it's one
name's
of those.
very French.
I gotcha.
And
Yeah,
I
sure.
have trouble.
Okay.
Some people might know him as I think it's Blackie-san on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, phenomenal artwork. And yeah, it's just like a really nice story about PTSD and kind of how overcoming that, and you're kind of pushing people away, but what you really need is to kind of come together and help each other. And the more you they deal with, it also feels like it's talking about homeless people in a way where they're kind of building this community together, and the main character is kind of rejecting that because she
wants to be alone.
Yeah, she wants to be alone. She's kind of freaking out. She's having a lot of issues, and they're going to her, but she's rejecting them, and other people are coming to her, but she's kind of keeps rejecting them. And then, it's a great story of how she kind of comes out of that and comes back to, helping people, and because in the in the war she was a sniper as well as like a combat medic, so it's kind of like her bringing those two people together, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm doing a great job.
No, you're telling me on it. You're talking about it before. It was indie, right? It's collected. You have a hardcover.
Yeah,
of it, right?
it's from first, second books. Yeah, it's a hardcover. Artwork's beautiful, like really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Has this kind of like watercolory feel to it, very like French illustration style, if you're familiar with that.
Ooh la la, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
Moulin Rouge, all those good things. Yeah, it's a great book, and I've been a huge fan of the artist for years, so it's nice to finally, because normally I have to go to like a specialty shop to pick up their book or order it online because they do a lot of like smaller indie prints.
Yeah.
But then now being able, I was in Barnes & Noble picking up Black Hammer,
Yeah.
and as I'm walking out, I see it, I'm like, oh, I gotta grab it, and grabbed it up right away, and
That's awesome.
It was good. It was really cool seeing that just out there.
Do you find, being in animation, having this comics background, even though you refuse to admit it, are you drawn to the indie stuff to be more excited by that? Are you finding you're consuming comics in a different way than what you think I am? Because we've talked about the show before. Other guests will find ourselves plowing through the words and having to stop and be like, wait, step back and look at the entire page and look at animation, or not animations, facials.
Oh yeah. No, that's kind of how I read superhero books or more mainstream books, where you're doing that. You're plowing through the words, and then I stop. I'm like, I'm just like, this could just be a wall of text. I'm not actually appreciating the art.
Exactly.
Yeah, and going back, I think a part of it is because I love superhero books. Like I just read Snyder's Dark Knight's Metal. Like I read that at the end of the year. I finally, when I was flying back east to visit family for Christmas, I finally read that, and it's so cool. It's such a brutal, awesome book.
Yeah. The Batman Who Laughs or whatever.
Yeah, the Batman Who Laughs. And I love, Capello's artwork's phenomenal. I love looking at that. But what I'm more drawn to in the indie scene or the smaller press books, I guess, is just different style takes, and because there's less of a microscope, it feels like, on these stories, they can get a little weirder. They can get a little...
Of course. They can tackle different subject matter,
totally.
Right? Yeah.
Tackle different subject matters. They don't... I don't know, like one that I really like is Fantasy Sports by Sam Bosma or Bosma. I don't know.
Happens to me all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah,
That's the
I've
problem
only
with
read
reading
it.
all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of a podcast with comics that I should be reading or listening to every week that we expressing the names the right way.
Yeah, they're all over the place. But yeah, his is like, it's on. I think he finished the 3rd book last year, and it's basically like a magical wizarding world, but they play sports. Like each city has like a sport that they do. So the first book is the 2 characters go to a temple to get, I haven't read it in years.
Sure.
But they go and get an artifact, and at the end, like they have to play basketball to accomplish it. And then one, like they have to wrestle or play like volleyball, or the last one was golf. And it's like so cool. It feels very like light-hearted Dark Souls-y with sports kind of. And it's like, you know, I would love to see, you know, a bigger, like a huge studio do that. But, you know, you have, I forget who his publishers. I think it's like Random House.
What was the title again?
Fantasy Sports.
Okay.
But, you know, just, it's not coming from Marvel or DC. That's coming from one of the other ones. And another one I read regularly is Headlopper. I don't know if
I've never heard.
really?
Headlopper, no.
Oh, by Andrew McLean. Yeah, it's great. It's kind of like Conan meets like Hellboy a little bit.
Okay.
So it's this guy who's the headlopper, and he's like, it's in like kind of a medieval fantasy world, and he carries around a witch over his shoulder. And he carries her by her like hair.
Yeah.
And she's like it's just her severed head, and she's like kind of quippy side character, and this one's through Dark Horse, but it's really good, and he releases them as quarterlies instead of monthlies. So when you get one, you get like a nice fat story to tell or to read. Yeah, really enjoy Headlopper. Highly recommend it.
Okay. There it is.
Yeah,
Kevin's bringing
there
it
it
up
is.
there. Okay.
Yeah, really cool artwork. Yeah, but I just like love seeing like different styles that you get from, you know, Dark Horse does it, or this is it's from Image. Yeah, Image does it a lot, and then more like indie presses or smaller presses, I guess, do it too.
Wow, the art's really cool.
Yeah, it's got it reminds me of Magnolia a little bit.
Yeah.
But a little like, I don't want to say cartoony, but
Sure.
a little more cartoony, I guess.
And then it's No Brow that publishes Fantasy Sports.
Oh, is that it?
From what I found on Amazon.com.
Yeah, no, that's like one of my favorite books. I look to that whenever I'm like, want some inspiration of like some fun stuff to draw. I always take a look at that, because
Sure.
it's just like I'm trying to get rid of all my paper material, but there's like a handful of books. I'm like, no, not these.
Gotta
stay.
keep them
Like,
going. Gotta keep them going.
Yeah,
I
gotta
know
keep
that.
going.
I
But
know that.
I'm still reading, you know, superhero stuff all the time.
Oh,
Like,
sure, yeah.
I more wait for the collections now, though.
Yeah.
It's just
smart.
a little easier.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's always so hard to keep up with this stuff, right? Like
Yep.
in terms of month to month, week to week. I did on one of the flights a giant catch up on Walking Dead.
Oh,
and
nice.
it's so great to do that and be like, okay, I remember now what we're doing issue to issue.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was month to month, it was like, wait, who's that person again? Like, who's Maggie fucking now? Like, what's going on? Like, why is he talking like that? And the same, I'm still doing the same thing with Paper Girls, where I've just been letting them stack.
Yeah,
And I
I read
want
the
to do one big read on that.
Yeah, I did the first 2 Paper Girls, and then the issues were coming out, and I kind of fell off, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna get there.
It's so,
I'm
and
going
it's
back.
like one of those stories that like, I don't ever want to do the author injustice, right? Of them they obviously they're doing this, they're putting in plot points, they're putting in beats, and then me losing it because I'm spending the first 3 or 4 pages catching up on who these people are, and trying to figure out how it all works together.
Yep,
It's a struggle.
exactly.
Yeah. For me, best thing I read this month, and this again, not this month, but you know how it works, is Mysteries of Love in Space. It was from DC Comics. It's a collection of a whole bunch of different short stories again, which again is
nice.
what I always appreciate, right? In
Yeah.
terms of, hey, we're going to tell you a story and you don't have to worry about continuity. You don't have to worry about this thing. We're just telling you a fun story and it's going to get what you want out of it. I thought there was 3 noteworthy standouts for me. First was Bizarro in Backward Heart. It's by Saladin Ahmed. He does a whole bunch of stuff. We've talked about him on this show a lot.
Okay.
What I love about it is it's about Bizarro falling in love and having sex.
Oh yeah. I think I saw that like popping up online, so I didn't read it, but I kind of familiarized myself with it.
It's like a super sad one of like, it opens with Bizarro in a bar, like drowning his sorrows, doing the backwards talk stuff, and then they're asking why, and he tells his story of falling in love with Grotesca and them having this being perfect for each other and this great thing. She understands them. She's not like, you know, backwards talking Bizarro Lois Lane or whatever. And so they have sex and they do did this. And it's just a lovely thing of them doing things together and then her being like, all right, I got to go back to my thing. I'm on my own mission. This is what it is. And him being heartbroken, right?
Yeah.
And then him stepping outside of the bar and a kid needing his help and him actually speaking normal for a second and going to help her. It was fun. The other one was Kilowog in Old Scars, Fresh Wounds. This is by Kyle Higgins. Again, these are all like 12 pages tops in terms of what's happening in there. Kilowog, Poozer, I get it, cool, whatever. You've always been a fun Green Lantern guy, and you've always been second fiddle to the humanoid Green Lanterns for me in terms of being entertained by them. And it was an interesting one. I wasn't sure where it was going at first. It actually didn't catch me off guard, but it's about him being on a date, it not going so well, him putting some distance there, then him and Guy Gardner talking about it while they were training people. Guy goes rogue, blah, blah, blah. And eventually we get a scene at the end where he's talking to the guy who was not doing what he should have been doing during training. And basically Kilowog, projects himself onto it and lets us in of like, I understand what you're doing. You're pushing everybody away because your planet was destroyed. Same thing happened to me. Like, it's hard to let people go. And the guy's like, all right, cool. You want to come get a beer with me? And the other guy's over here. He's like, nah, I shouldn't drink with recruits. And then again, another heartbreaking scene of Kilowog. It's just him with his ring making a little, hard construct of the woman from the beginning that he liked a lot, but he couldn't bring in. It's like, damn, like that's harsh for that. Yeah. And then to top it all off, the reason Mysteries, and the thing that I loved the most from the book, from Mysteries of Love in Space, was Glasses by Jeff Loveness, illustrated by Tom Grummett. Tom Grummett I've been a fan of in terms of art forever. He used to do Superboy stuff back in the day, nice. During like Reign of Superman and then into Superboy. But we talked about Jeff on the show before too, especially with Superman, because it's the one where Superman takes the guy's breakfast burrito, not against his will. The guy offers it to him.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was like, that's what Superman is. He's a normal dude, blah, blah, blah. And this is Glasses. It's all told from Lois's perspective of her writing about falling in love with Clark Kent and then feeling betrayed by Superman, right? When he reveals that Clark is Superman instead of Clark. And it's so great, and I don't want to ruin all of it. It made me cry, of course.
Really?
It's that good of a Superman comic.
Down.
But I want to read a bunch of captions, just a set of captions from it, right? And then she's talking about how, why would people not see how Clark Kent, he chooses to be Clark, right? That every day the most powerful man in the world puts a coat over his cape and goes to work. He could be anyone, and he chooses to be kind. I honestly don't know why. Maybe because he knows what it's like to be lonely, to be the only one left, and he doesn't want anyone else to feel that way. So he helps. Never looking for praise. He just helps because he cares, and no one ever sees. So like I'm cutting, that's the panel in the mid that really got me. And then the end here is Clark sitting there at home, Lois coming over and handing him what she's written, right? So I've been saying, this is still all narration from Lois. So I've been saving this story for one of those bad days. Just a little op-ed for you, a reminder. You are so many things to so many people, and there's a side of you no one else sees, but I do. And I love you, Clark Kent. And then it's him reading it, right? A frame of him reading it, and then she goes, Clark, are you okay? Was that? And he goes, no, it's just, you're right. I was so alone. Thank you. And he's crying. You know what I mean?
Man.
It's like, fuck. You know what I mean? Of like, what a vulnerable, honest, human moment from Superman and Lois. And again, what I want out of them. Yeah. I don't need them punching the robot every fucking issue. You know what I mean? I want that characterization.
That's what I love about Superman. Like, he's one of my favorites because he's the most human out of everyone, kind of. Like, that's what makes him special, is his humanity, where everyone says, like, he could just, like, punch Batman to pieces right away. It's like, yeah but he wouldn't, because he's, like, he's a good guy. He's the Boy Scout, and I like Boy Scout Superman a lot. Yeah,
totally. Like, and that's what the book does so well, right? And that's what I'm skipping over with the scene, right, where Lois feels betrayed and can't believe why, and then she gets this glimpse of him in the other room of the Daily Planet while she's like giving him the silent treatment, and him being so alone, and her finally clicking into place why he does what he does. Yeah. And then goes into it. It's so well done. And again, it tugs at my heartstrings and defines the character so well in such a short amount of time, whereas so many other people have it and spin their wheels over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Pull list for you. Anything else you want to talk about that you've been reading lately? Obviously, we have a whole bunch of stuff from patreon.com that people have been talking about, but I don't know if you had things to jump in on.
New run of Umbrella Academy, finally.
Bring it up to me. How's it going? Like, I Umbrella Academy somehow completely passed me by.
Oh, really?
And then the Netflix show dropped.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, you got to watch it. Jen and I watched episode 1 and weren't immediately sold, but enough that I do want to get back to it.
Umbrella Academy, the original run, is one of my all-time favorite books. Okay. I'm like Gerard Way doing. I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, I think it came out when I was in college, and I read the first volume of it, which is kind of what season 1's about, with a little difference. Like, season 1 covers that first volume book, and then read volume 2 and it was awesome. And they hinted at Hotel Oblivion. I'm like, oh, that sounds sick. And then they didn't make it for a decade because he's making an album with My Chemical Romance, and he made that album, and then he still didn't make the book. And finally it came out, and I just am starting to get back into it, and it's good. It's real. Like, I like the show, but I really like I think their portrayal in the comic is better. Like, or maybe just because that's my version of the Umbrella Academy.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, that's how you feel about it, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot less exposition, I guess, in the book. Maybe like there's more like stories being told through like the shots as opposed to them just telling you stuff, which was really enjoyable. But yeah, the new run of Umbrella Academy I'm getting back into, and yeah, it's been great. So
that's awesome.
It's nice to finally like have it back after had to be like 10. Nah, it can't be 10 years. But
when you think about the expectations, it's like Half-Life 3, right?
Yeah,
you come to that thing of like this thing that's beloved and you want to come back to it, and oof, that's tough.
Yeah,
that's
maybe it's better just to like let it be out there.
Yeah,
like it's this imaginary something.
As Watchmen can probably attest to, right? As people continue to try to get more blood from that stone. So one of the things I put in the pull list over at patreon.com/kindoffunny was Man and Superman. This is Marv Wolfman. Did you hear about this? Do you know this thing?
I looked it up because I saw you put it on the pull list. It's a radio play? Is that
no? So what it is when they were doing Superman Confidential, they had approached him of like, do you want to do anything? And so he had done this and written it all. And I could pull it up, I guess, if I really wanted to. But he had written this whole thing out, and they had done it, but then it ended in a way that they weren't able to do it at that time. I forget why. Okay. So it's old. It's I think 2006, right? It's been on the shelf. For 2000, yeah, okay. Marv Wolfman, Brandon Jackson Shorts is setting me right here. Marv Wolfman explains that he wrote the story between 2006 and 2009 as part of a larger project called Superman Confidential. This is going to be a collection of stories from different writers that focus on different aspects of Superman's early life and how those past experiences affected his current state. When that got canceled, Superman Confidential, this story fell into limbo and didn't get released. And then Wolfman talks about how it's changed since then, obviously. Now there are these chances to put stuff out, so they collected it all and put it out. For me, it was one of those books, and I like Marv Wolfman, right? Teen Titans, obviously, he's done so much good stuff. This one didn't click for me. It's really? Very much, it's what you're talking about. We're very much like, this isn't really my Superman. You know what I mean? Like, this is a bit too Silver Agey in terms of like, man, G. Willikers and Mom and Pop and Mom and Pom were from. It's him moving to Metropolis for the first time.
Okay.
It isn't him in the suit at any point. It's him moving there and trying to figure out what's going on. And so he moves there, and he also looks exactly like the Clark Kent you'd expect him to look like. And it's like, well, why wouldn't he have aged into that? I don't know. I don't like that a lot. But I was very much in the minority, right? Kayla wrote in to patreon.com/kindoffunny and says, Man and Superman. I don't know why I said it like that. That's just the title. I left it in there for some reason. All right. As some are aware, I've read few Superman books. I've recently tried to get into the starting line by reading Man of Steel to move on to Action Comics and Superman, but ultimately, it's never stuck on me. It's my bad, really. I prefer the human spirit kind of stories in a Superman comic. But I got my wish. Here comes along a canceled story by one of the most legendary writers in DC Comics, and it's a perfect vision of how I want to see my Superman/Clark Kent. Fresh out of Smallville and into the busy life of Metropolis with no real plan other than to get a job at the Daily Planet. That was cool. It does do that thing of like usually it is, I'm going to go get the story with Superman, and it is kind of here, but he actually goes to other places and applies and has like interviews, and the Daily Planet isn't calling him back, which I thought was a fun little thing. Back to Kayla, sorry. And to help others. Let me just touch on a few of the things I loved about this book. Seeing the beginnings and the vulnerabilities of Clark is wonderful. It really shows that he really truly is human more than alien, but doesn't diminish his super abilities. I feel for him when he knows he fucked up trying to investigate a crime and comes up with a plan to fix said fuck up and fucks it up even more. I think we've all been there in some way. Lois is wonderful. Perry is so Perry. Lex was pretty spot on. And Castellini's art is so well put for a story like this. It reminds me of Neil Adams a little bit. As of late, DC has been making some weird decisions on some of their books, but releasing a story that was written over a decade plus ago makes me want DC to dig deep into these vault and continue to release these 100-page stories. Because that's the other thing. It's, a giant drop or whatever they're doing. Brandon Jackson Shorts review was this: Man and Superman. This was great. I only read it because I didn't have much else to read that week, so I had some extra time. I thought it would take a whole week to read it, but I ended up taking only about 3 days. I love this book. I loved this look, at Clark. And it was nice to get an older reader slash writer's perspective on Superman. Unfortunately, American Alien came out in the meantime. Oh, this is him catching back up to everything that happened, right? Don't get me wrong, I love American Alien. It's sort of what got me into Kind of Funny. However, this book has a lot of similarities to it, and I feel a lot of new readers aren't going to be as interested when they can read American Alien. And that's exactly what I'm saying too, right? I like American Alien far more than this in terms of like what a Superman is that doesn't put on the cape yet and is growing into his powers and stuff like that. Sorry. That being said, I do think it's worth giving a shot. Man, it's Superman. American Alien was written by Max Landis, who grew up in a different way and in a different time from Marv Wolfman. Because of that, they see Superman in different ways. And I think this story is a great examination of what Superman meant to that older generation. That's exactly true.
Gotcha.
And that's one of those things for me that why I'm like, totally respect it.
Yeah.
But like Marv in his intro, which is really awesome because he runs through the entire story of how this came to be and what happened, is very much like, this is the best Superman story I've ever written. I'm like, oh man, that's a high bar to set before I even open up page one. And then for me to get there and be like, I don't agree. Like, even though I guess I don't have a better. Well, Marv Wolfman wrote DC Universe Online, so there you go. He worked on that, so that's better. And Josh Elliott gets the final word on Man and Superman. Wow, that was a great read. I just finished and I cannot wait to read this book already. Marv Wolfman really captures Clark's small town upbringing. I've spent the entirety of my 24-year life growing up in a town not unlike Smallville. You're taught to help people out whenever you can, which is what Clark and Superman do at every turn. I find this very relatable, parentheses, minus the whole being an alien with superpowers thing. I cannot imagine having to uproot my small town farm life and go live in a metropolis. That would be an I see what he did there. I thought he was going to go A and B. A metropolis. That would be an unimaginably hard transition to make. From a place where everyone knows you to a place where nobody gives a damn about you would definitely take a heavy toll on your emotions, and Wolfman nails that. I go on and on about this book, but I won't. This is the best Clark Kent story I have ever read, and it really showcases who Superman is. I'm glad so many people dug it. Maybe I should reread it at some point, give it another shot, but I digress. Didn't click for me. I started another thing here now too. Let's switch gears. We're talking about Superman. Marv Wolfman, DC Comics, Comics Code of Authority. I started Sunstone, Volume 1.
Oh, yeah.
Sunstone, Volume 1 is a comic about two lesbians who are really into BDSM. And it's sexy for sure, right? The way I would rather walk it back into how I got here, right? So there's an artist, and I'm going to butcher this name. It's Stepan Sejic, right? You might remember me talking about a comic called, I had it right there damn it. Swing. I want to say Flow. Swing back on on the comic book club. That was drawn by Stevic's wife, Stepan's wife, and that one is about swinger culture, right?
Okay.
The reason I had found that is because if you remember, Stepan, the artist here from this one, right? He had gotten popular on Twitter and Reddit one day because he works on DC books officially. He did Nightwing, he did Justice League Odyssey, and he also does DeviantArt of the characters he's drawing. So that he blew up on Reddit one day of like not like like fucking hardcore pornography, but like Babs in Nightwing, Clark and Lois, like them being really sexy together in various states of undress. And it was that thing that popped off. It is hot, Kevin. It was that thing that popped off that was, hey, this guy actually works in comics and did it. And it speaks back to, the former issues of the Comic Book Club when we had Irene on. And I was like, do all comic artists just want to draw smut? And she's like, yes, we do. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. He's a great artist, period. I love how he draws superheroes. So I had started following him for that. And then obviously sexy drawings. And then heard a lot about this Sunstone thing. That it was one of his pet projects that he was putting out. And, you can get them in volumes and all this jazz. And so finally, just bit the bullet and bought Volume 1 because I love his art so much, period. Nice. Let alone it's an interesting story. Yeah. And I was surprised by what I found. He had sold me on it, he was doing sexy. Oh, lately he also found fame on internet fame for doing a Wonder Woman Lara Croft thing. Multiple scenes of them falling in love. Again, not being hardcore pornography. Yeah. Very sweet, like, they got vibes between each other. They're falling in love. As he's doing, he put up something else that was another story he was telling, and he put up there basically like, foreplay's hot, and I like drawing foreplay. The act of actually drawing sex is not appealing to me. I don't do that. And like he was pitching this story that would need full on sexual intercourse. He's like, that's not what I'm about. And so I was like, so what the fuck is Sunstone? So I finally bought it to figure out, and I'm blown away. I'm only I don't know, a third through it maybe. Like it's a big volume, and I'm working my way through it. But it is such a cute touching. I'm not BDSM. I don't have the crazy bed like they have in this book and the crazy gags and whips and stuff like that. But it's such a cool look at these two women falling for each other, right? But also doing this for the first time with anybody and how they're filling out the roles and having these like weird, sexy, awkward, honest, like, you know what I mean? The same way, like you always talk about it when you watch a movie, right? Like, man, this doesn't portray what sex is really like at all, right? And it sets such a weird expectation for when you start having sex for the first time. It's so interesting to see this and have to put not only sex with somebody for the first time, but then also the sub-dom relationship for the first time and how they feel it out and and it's just like a really intimate for sure, really graphic in terms of, again, it's from what I've seen, foreplay before and after, not kind of thing, not like, again, hardcore pornography, but it's really fascinating because it is similar to what I'm talking about with the Superman book. This one didn't make me cry. This is a character-driven piece of who these people are. And I'm like, that's so fascinating that you can do that in this day and age. And then also still work at DC Comics. Yeah. Because you would think that would be a thing of like, well, this guy's torching his career.
Sounds like something bad, like, unless you're a huge name or something, like a Frank Miller or something. Like, no, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I kind of love comics for that reason, where they explore these, like, I have no context of what that relationship would 100%. Be like. So to get to read a book that kind of explains that, it's like, oh, this is fascinating. And it helps you kind of empathize with other people a little more too. Like, I love that. That's great.
That's the thing of like, having, the main character who's the writer of, she's writing this book basically, right? And it starts with her writing and her putting her wedding ring around her neck, right? So you already know where the story's going from the very beginning. But to watch them have these early foibles and fumbles, but then also be a normal couple, in quotes, be normal on the couch watching a movie, right? And then be adventurous in the bedroom. But then talk about that and play off that, right? And the first time she calls her one day wife, but for now, Dom mistress, right? Outside of it, she does the whole in great comic storytelling, right? Where she says it, there's like a panel, and then it's her putting it, and it's like, she's like, when you're horny, things sound really good. Not outside, they sound ridiculous. And it's like, wow, like what an interesting way to think about this dynamic and relationship that I never would have. I don't know what it's like to be two first-time BDSM lesbians. And like, wow, here I am getting this it's a really awesome narrative so far, and I'm excited to get back to it.
Oh, that's great. I love seeing writers and artists kind of working out their issues a little bit in their stories they're telling. Like, that's what intrigued me about Sex Criminals, because that's Fraction, right?
Yeah.
Where he was saying, like, I was uncomfortable about sex, so I made a book about sex. And it's like, that's awesome. Like, that's great. Like, get it out there.
And that's another great one. I mean, Sex Criminals, I honestly, I'm trying to think. I would think, like, in terms of, like, raw sex, right? Saga for sure, and I would think Sex Criminals too, are way more in your face about it than Sunstone is. Sunstone is very much, sure, they're nude and, like, sure, they're doing foreplay stuff, but so far, that's where it stops. I haven't finished the whole volume, and there's multiple volumes out, so I don't know. But based on what he said and how it's playing out, it's like, this isn't about like getting your rocks off while you read it. It is very much about like what's happening. You don't get me wrong, it's hot, but no, it's hot, Kevin. It's
still hot.
Yeah. Why are we getting so riled up?
Let's go get it. Let's go.
Everybody go buy comics. We're buying comics.
Oh, we have fun.
We do have fun here. Die 3 is here again for my pull list. I still love Die. Have you heard about this? Kept up on it?
Nothing of it.
So the idea is, and I talk about it every show, so I'll stop short.
Just give you the pitch. From your
Kids get sucked into their D&D game. They pop out a couple years later. Then we jump to them being adults. They get sucked back in, and it's like how their lives got fucked up because of it, where they're at now, how they're going to go. I think it's still amazing. I think you should still be reading it. I'm all in on Die. Love it very much.
D&D Jumanji.
Exactly. That's it. How they talk about it in the book.
Okay.
Brandon Jackson Shorts writes in though and says, I listen to a different comic podcast. For the record, if you listen to a different comics podcast and it's really good, please tell us in the participation thread.
I'm looking supporting that. Okay.
Huh?
You don't want to tell them fuck off? Or?
Oh no, I mean I'm never going to promote those podcasts, but I want to listen to them.
I mean, we might promote them, like maybe get some cross action going on.
I don't know. This show's not good enough for that, though. You know what I mean? Both hosts had differing opinions that I agree with. On one hand, they look at Tolkien. The look at Tolkien was interesting, and the idea that the hobbits are a part of this world was a really fun concept. I also love the idea that the authors of famous stories are like gods of those separated sections. Parentheses, the backup letters mentions that the world is going to split into different sections like a 20-sided die. On the other hand, I think this was way too soon to do a side story. I know Ash, but aside from him, parentheses, her, question mark, I don't know any of the other characters, and now we've wasted a month on something like that isn't crucial to the main story. So while I liked it, I wish, Kieran Gillen had waited until issue 5 or 6. I'm all in. I'm locked in. I don't care.
Yeah.
And Ash being the main character, I want more. I want to know what's going on with him/her in the game world. I didn't mind it. I like it, but it's a good point of bringing up, and very confusing if you don't read die. So we'll move on.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I prefer to wait for the volumes to come out, which I know is as like a bummer because you like want those issue numbers up because then they're gonna
of course
keep
they'll
ordering
actually
more
make the
of them.
show.
Yeah, like it keeps it going. But I don't know. Like I would be like I'd get frustrated with that all the time. So it'd be like, oh, Die,
that's the one thing about Die so far.
It.
And granted, this is how I felt about Walking Dead early on and Paper Girls and Saga. Is like since there are only a few, I find myself, oh, there's a new Die. Go back, read 1, 2, 3.
Oh, nice.
There's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and like get that way because I think the art is so beautiful. I want to see it over and over again, and I do think the story is going to be so intricate that I don't want to get in there and be like, wait, what? Who's this person?
Because Saga, I haven't caught the most recent volume yet because of that, and I'm just like, where are we? Like 11 or something, and like I love it. It's awesome, but yeah, I think I need an abridged version or like a crash course in Saga. Just to like,
I mean, Saga, you might as well again start from the beginning. I think.
Yeah, because
like now they're taking that break.
Oh, are they doing another break?
Yeah, it's gonna be a long one. It ends on a really huge cliffhanger.
Okay, then good time to catch up, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to call out Action Comics number 1007. Again, Superman is its own ball of wax, right? And I like that Jonathan Kent's back and yada yada yada. Action's the one that is the Clark Kent Daily Planet storylines.
Okay.
And so this one is awesome that it opens with like Jimmy going out with this girl he likes, and then she takes him to a cult, and he's like, That's
awesome.
And like he's got to get out, and it's just funny to see those hijinks, but then bring it back to the planet, right?
Yeah.
And then also a really pivotal scene in Superman lore that I not that I never thought they would do, but I haven't seen done enough of Lois Lane finally telling her dad that Clark's Superman.
Oh,
because how
I never even thought of that.
Because General Sam Lane obviously is never liked Clark, right? He's just some fucking nerd stealing his daughter, and he's some liberal guy. And then Superman, of course, being an alien that he can't control and not liking that shit. And so it was a really awesome, well done. It's very Bendis of multiple panels of Lois starting into this very long-winded thing, and her being like, and so you need to know that, and like it gets there, like you need to know that I'm in love, and he's like, I know that you're in love, like you're married. She's like, I'm in love with Superman. The father of your grandson is Superman. He's always been Superman. You know what I mean? Like that they're the same person, and it's just fucking powerful because he takes all this in. I forget what he says. He has like one line to her, and then just turns and walks away. And like then you have a couple panels and it's Lois crying, and it's like fuck, you know what I mean? Of like, what is he gonna do with that information?
Yeah, that's
now
a lot of weight.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, is he gonna go confront Clark/Superman about it? Where are we gonna go with that thread? And that's really good.
I actually love that idea because it's frustrating with those will they won't they storylines. It's like no, get them together. Let's see how weird their families and relationships get. Because watching TV shows and stuff, that you don't get that too much. And I never even thought of her having to tell her father.
Have you been reading the Bendis stuff of Superman?
Not too much. No, like
they're doing like if you want that of like how weird their lives are I really recommend it for that thread. Okay. There's a lot of like the Superman main title Superman stuff they were doing for a while. Didn't enjoy. It was like Earth's in the Phantoms. I'm like, what the fuck's happening? Like, Action was way better about it. But if you remember, like Lois went away with Jor-El and Jonathan. She came back and didn't tell Clark, and then he finds out about it, and they have this really interesting reunion, right? Yeah. And then sex marathon, and then conversations around it that is basically like, we need to stop pretending we're a normal couple. We're not a normal couple, right? And like, what does that mean? And I think it means that I'm going to go over here sometimes and have to write a book all by myself and be left alone while you save the world, which is totally fine, but we love each other and we're there for each other. And like, this is yet another wrinkle to that of like, it's not the status quo anymore. Let's actually address what this family should be. That's super weird with this 16-year-old alien hybrid that just came back, right? Like he left and he was 7 or whatever, and now he's 16. It's like, there's so much information that they're toying with, and Bendis seems to actually be putting the pieces on the board to actually have some really cool conversations and character relationships there.
Oh, that's great.
Speaking of Bendis, Naomi #1 came out too. 2's out. I haven't read it. I liked everything up until the end of this one. The idea here is that there's this teen girl, Naomi, in a small town, right? And she's obsessed with superheroes. And one day for 12 seconds, Superman fought Mongol in the streets. Okay. And then, but it was like, how he got kicked in from another state. They fought there and like ran off that way. And so it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to their town. And she's like obsessed with it. They all have, it's her and her friends talking about you, showing YouTube videos, exchanging stories, blah, 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 blah. Eventually Superman does come back for, again, 2 seconds to clean up a little bit and wave. And it's her obsession with it and the town's obsession with it. And I love that so much of, what would it be? We think about Metropolis and Gotham or whatever. What would it be in the middle of Nebraska or wherever this Montana, wherever this one's set, right? You have a cool town, but there's no superheroes there. They're never there. And they exist in the world and you know that. But for one 12-second period, they're there.
Okay.
And like, I was like, I just wanted that to go.
Yeah.
But then at the end of issue 1, they start teasing that she's special. And I'm like, okay, like I hope this doesn't go into her having powers, but I have a feeling it's about to go into. And I didn't read issue 2 yet, so I'm behind. But I was like, up until then, I was like, this is a really cool idea. How are you going to do an ongoing series about a town that had a brush with superheroes for a second?
That I kind of love those stories where it's normal people dealing with it. I didn't read Naomi, but did you ever read Plutonia?
No.
It's a whole. It's just like a graphic novel, as is.
Sure.
And this superhero Plutonia, she dies and falls to the ground, and a bunch of kids find her, and it's just she's dead in the woods, and it's these kids who are like, "What do we do with her? Do we tell people? No, she's ours. Like we have this." It's really kind of fucked up.
How many issues was there?
It's just one volume, I think.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that
it's just
awesome.
one story. I forgot why I picked it up. Maybe someone at my comic shop recommended
Sure.
it. It has cool artwork too. I really dug the artwork. But yeah, it's like how these kids are like dealing with like what should we do with this body, and one kid gets like really like messed up, obsessed with it, where he's like he's trying to turn himself into a superhero. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know if it's like it's nothing like perverse or weird. It's just kind of like, oh man, this kid's messed up. Like someone needs to have a talk with this guy. And it's just like it's cool seeing how just us normal people, not in like the UN needs to get involved in superheroes, but just like, hey, did you guys see a superhero's dead?
So
in
5
the
kids
woods?
discover the body of the world's greatest superhero,
Yeah.
Plutonia, in the woods after school one day. Discovery sends them on a dark journey that will threaten to tear their friendship apart.
That sounds really cool.
I'm on it, and guess what, everybody? And I swear they'll never sponsor us because we just say it so much. It's on Comixology Unlimited, so there's really no reason not to.
Unlimited, yeah.
Because it's like what, $5? Is that what we decided last time? $4 for unlimited comics for a month or by month. It's perfect.
It's really good. When I flew to Japan in November, I got it and I just like loaded up with stuff, and it was so nice. Where I'm just like halfway through, like I don't like this one. I want to.
I'm done with
read this one now.
Yeah, it's such a smart way to get new, cool, or comics that you wouldn't necessarily give the chance to. Like, because that's $10 on Amazon right now. Or on
and I like
Comixology
that they
without
give you a lot of volume 1s of books, like especially Image books. They give you tons of that, and so you can just hop in, try it out. Which Image is genius because their first volume they always charge less than their second one, so it's like $10.
Get you hooked.
Yeah,
the first thing of drugs is free.
Yeah, man, they get you, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm like, wait, it's 25 now.
God damn it!
All right, I really want to see where Lowe's going, so let's go. Let's do it.
And final thing on my pull list, and I'm adding Plutonia for next time, is Life is Strange 3 and 4. I've been talking about this series that's been developing. This I thought it was 4 issues, right? It turns out the first arc is 4 issues. Then they're moving on to something else, right? And so if you play Life is Strange, the original?
No, I totally missed it.
No, no big deal. So spoilers, even though we've done this every show, so I think for a while now, at least once. Life is Strange, ends with a choice, and then the world's different depending on what you do. This one picks up with what was my choice, which is the right bad choice in the game. It is the right choice, but it's the bad choice in the game where you sacrifice the town for your friend Chloe.
Okay.
And so this has been 4 issues of that, but it's about, in the game you can rewind time in certain aspects, but it's kind of killing you. This one is a year later, it's time for the memorial service, and then all these strange things start happening. Max starts slipping.
Oh, cool.
And so it's been really interesting I feel like they've nailed the writing, and the writing sounds like or reads like what's in the game. So I hear the voices doing it, and it's this weird, Elseworlds shoot off of it of like, this isn't meant to be canon. Last I had heard when they pitched it, because I think the next arc is going to be not about this. Maybe it goes another way. I don't know what's going to happen, but it was another interesting 4 issues, super quick, and issue 4 I thought really paid off on all the things they were playing with. And it gets super weird, but it gets weird in a way that was cool and I didn't expect from Life is Strange. And then them making a choice of what's going to go. So if you like the games, I definitely think you should, because it ends in a very, very interesting where are they going to go from here, and what is the next thing going to be about, of trying to like them retconning a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
What does that mean? But it's also very, Max is like, what do you think of like the string universe theory and like multiverse? Like, fuck, you get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's super comic-y, but it is still super video gamey, even though I guess the video game was super comic-y. I don't know.
Yeah. But I don't know. I read comics to be comic booky.
Exactly.
That's what I want.
Speaking of being comic booky, Greg Way, required reading was Black Hammer Volume 1 and 2 by Jeff Lemire, picked by one Jonathan Dornbush. Now, I thought you were going to show up here and be like, I like Kind of Funny. I've seen certain shows. I know you do the comic club. I've seen it here and there. I didn't do my homework. I didn't know there was homework. I haven't you came in, you're like, I read volume 1 and 2, Black Hammer, got it done, nailed it. And I was like, fuck, I did not do it. This is the first time I have not had my homework done, and I was like, I'm gonna coast on by. He won't have done it, so we'll just punt it.
Yeah.
We'll punt it till next time. But here's something interesting, because I was still gonna stick with, we can still punt it. I can do it later. I don't want to, but I was surprised, and I don't know what it is about this comic, that so many people in their Patreon participation threads were like, didn't do it, or I'll get to it later, and never came back to update like they always do. Like my tried and true people didn't. I have reviews from Kayla, Josh Games, Katie Gallagher, but that's about it in terms of everybody else. Yeah. And so you talked about it a little bit. What did you think of Black Hammer? Hammer.
The Black Hamper. That's where I put all my underpants.
Put all your clothes.
That's where the dirty ones go. So you were mentioning about Man and Superman, the one before where the height kind of like messed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I felt this way because I picked up and I love the cover, and it's like Mike Mignola had a quote saying like, I don't have time to read comics anymore, but this is one it's worth doing, and like that, I love Mignola, so that's high praise. And the first volume's kind of a slog. I felt by the end of it, I was just like, I get it. Like what's happening to these characters is really interesting. Should I go into the plot?
Yeah, it's spoiled, yeah.
And
this is on me. I should have done it. I'm screwed up. It's me.
Oh, well, I mean, it's all a mystery. Like, I've read volume 1 and 2. I sort of like, I have a hint of what might be making things worse. I still don't know what caused this.
Yeah.
But the premise is there's 5 superheroes, but like kind of weird superheroes that are clearly based on classic superhero archetypes.
Gotcha.
There's like Gale is Shazam. Talkie Walkie is just like kind of like space robot. The Colonel is kind of a classic, I want to say Doctor Strange, how he travels through the multiverse, but more of a sci-fi, 70s, 60s sci-fi version.
Yeah, Caleb, chimes in her review and goes, Jeff Lemire does it once again. He crafts a world of golden age superheroes, builds character, humor, and drama with such ease. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. This book is truly a love letter to DC Comics and Marvel characters. Here you go. Abraham Slam is to Captain America. Yep. Golden Gale is to Shazam. Barbalian is to Martian Manhunter. Yep. Colonel Weird is Adam Strange, and so on.
Yeah, Adam Strange. Thank you. It's that, and once you get that, it's like, okay, I get it. You're setting up this cool mystery where this incident happened where they fought the anti-god, and when they finally defeated him, they ended up at a farm, and they're trapped at this farm. It's a town. It's a normal town, just like somewhere in the middle of the country, but for some reason they can't leave this town. And you find out how Black Hammer's the one who figured out they couldn't leave the town through bad results. Basically, he tried to leave and just spoilers, ripped apart, and his hammer's left. And so they kind of have been there for so long, I think 10 years now, they've given up on it. And,
trying to go.
What's interesting about Gale is, so she grew older. She started as a young girl like Shazam did, and would turn to Shazam, or not Shazam, whatever that version of Shazam's called. She would turn into a young girl Shazam, and she kept getting older and older and older, but always turned back into this young girl. And her character I find to be really interesting.
So the Shazam version is aging, not the Billy version.
No, the Billy version's aging, not the Shazam version. So she's like 55 when she's not a superhero now. Then when she becomes a superhero, she's a little kid again. But in this world, for some reason, she's trapped as a little kid, and so she's stuck having to go to school and getting in trouble with the principal.
Gotcha.
And she's a woman in her 50s who's smoking. She's like, I can't deal with this bullshit. Don't put me through this.
Gotcha.
And then you have interesting archetypes with Barbalian, where he's not archetype, but just he's an alien. But you also find out he is gay and he was a cop, and how it's this is a really interesting story about Barbalian, where he's dealing with the police department not liking him because he's gay, and then now he thought he found someone he could confide in, and a religious figure, and it turns out they're rejecting him too. So he has this interesting story. But yeah, it just took a while to get any of you, they spent so much time getting you involved with the characters and who these characters are, which is great. But the first volume was kind of hard to get through, but by halfway through the second one, I'm in. Really enjoying it.
That's
now.
echoed by a lot of people. Josh wrote in, Josh Games, and says, at first I had a hard time following Black Hammer. The time jumps and various characters were a little overwhelming at first, but right around issue 4, I was able to settle in and follow pretty easily. I really dug the world and was built. I really dug the world that was built, and melding of the past and present in space and Earth is a pretty cool melding. And on the surface, there's no reason I shouldn't be into this story, but damn it, somehow I was pulled in and plowed through both volumes in one afternoon. It's definitely among my favorite required readings to date.
Wow.
Shout out to Dornbush for recommending it. And then Katie says, holy shit, this was awesome. Black Hammer is in competition for the best recommendation of the show now alongside Descender. I definitely...
Descender's so good.
Woo! I definitely got some Watchmen vibes from the way it portrayed superheroes as really just flawed people, and I loved the slightly weird art complements the weirdness of the story. The way each character has a dedicated backstory arc has made me invested in every single one of them in a way most ensemble casts don't manage to. And I liked the flashback to the villains were unapologetically ridiculous, which succeeded brilliantly in setting the scene in a single panel. I can't wait to read volume 3 and find out what's going on with this evil plot / life-saving mission perpetuated by Madame Dragonfly. Probably.
Ooh, deep spoilers.
So I think we screwed up, everybody who didn't read it. We got to go and read it, all right? I know Dornbush.
Sounds really cool.
Dornbush looks like this pencil neck dweeb, but we got to listen to him, and we got to go read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely... It's a slow pace, a slow build, but then once it I wish it had started halfway through the second volume, because as soon as I got there, but you need all that character
You need that backstory.
stuff. You need to figure out where it is. You need to figure out who Black Hammer is. Then you're getting they have a guest artist do a lot of stuff with Colonel Weird or Mr. Weird, whatever his name is. That's really cool, really awesome artwork. Okay. I want to read the next volume. I'm looking forward to where it goes next.
Okay. I'll put it back on. I still have it. I got to do it. I'll do it. It's got to go there. For you though, what is your pick, Joey? What are you saying we have to read for April?
Have you read Tokyo Ghost?
No.
It's a 2-volume series from Image Comics.
Okay.
By
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm on it. I'm all good. Hold on.
Yeah, I forget who is it Snyder who wrote it?
Is it Scott Snyder?
Yeah.
We're opening it. It's coming. It's loading.
I haven't read it in a...
Oh, no. Rick Remender. You were right. Good job, Kev.
Oh, Remender. Dude, I was on it. But yeah, the artwork is some of the best artwork. It's the guy who did Batman White Knight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I got his name too. I was and superstar art team Sean Murphy, Chrononauts and Punk Rock Jesus, and Matt Hollingsworth, Witches and Hawkeye.
Oh wait, am I mixing up artists? I might be. Yeah. But yeah, the Tokyo Ghost is it's so good. It's in this dystopian future world where we're all being riddled with pop-up ads, and technology is almost like a drug that you're addicted to. And it's a story of crap, I haven't read it in so long.
I can read it for you.
Excited
Tokyo Ghost Volume 1, The Isles of Los Angeles 2089. Humanity is addicted to technology. Getting a virtual buzz is the only thing left to live for, and gangsters run it all. Who do these gangsters turn to when they need their rule enforced? Constables Led Dent and Debbie Decay are about to be given a job that will force them out of their familiar squalor of LA and into the last techless country on earth, the Garden Nation of Tokyo. That sounds awesome.
Dude, it's so good. But on top of this really cool sci-fi story, it's this great story about codependency relationships of Debbie Decay, Led Dent, and him being kind of addicted to this tech. And it's they do flashbacks to where they're really young, and you see how their childhood together, these events that happen in their childhood that kind of push them into this life they're leading and push Dent into this bad place he's in, and then how Debbie kind of tries to pull him out of it. And it's really cool. It's the overall thing's great, but the character, it's one of those things where I love these characters. I love the arc these two characters go through, and it's heartbreaking. It's beautiful and heartbreaking. I highly recommend it.
All right, Tokyo Ghost Volume 1, required reading for April. Also, if you didn't read Black Hammer like I didn't, that's still on your required reading. Don't be a schlub. We got to listen to Dornbush. Because you don't want to listen to him, you know?
You don't want to.
God,
You know
don't
what I
want
mean?
it at all.
These people, these new Beyond kids, they don't know what they're doing. Time for a big question. This one comes from Kayla. Kayla wrote in to patreon.com/kindafunny, like all of you can and should and do. And says, question for Greg and the mystery guest. That's you, Joey. Marvel announced at the end of last year their new event, The War of the Realms, which has been quoted as a event of unparalleled scale. And they're not wrong. There's 11 issues in the month of April. 2 issues in the main War of the Realms, 8 tie-in issues, and 1 issue that says the must-read companion to War of the Realms. After calculating this out, it added up to $47.89 plus tax. In May, the floodgates open, and there are 25 issues, 2 issues of the War of the Realms comic, 3 one-shots, 19 tie-in issues, and 1 must-read companion. And calculating this out comes to a total of $113.74 plus tax. The main event issues end in June. I just gotta ask, is this overkill? It seems crazy to do this amount of tie-ins in 3 months time. I'm fairly new to it when it comes to these events, as I've only participated in 1, DC Metal. But it was spread out over 10 months, and with main story issues, tie-ins, and one-shots, it only added up to 25 issues, which is totally doable for me personally. What are your thoughts about events in comic books?
I love events in comic books.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm like, that's always when I jump back in.
Crazy, dude.
I know I'm crazy, but like the last one that Marvel did, well, I don't catch them all, but like the last one that Marvel did I got really into was Secret Wars.
Okay.
I love that. It was so cool. They were definitely trying like a Game of Thrones-y sci-fi where all the universes are smashing together.
Yeah.
Seeing Doom as like the world emperor. Thought it was so cool. Yeah, that was fun. Dark Knight's Metal was the last like big DC thing that I read.
Yeah.
I dig them. They're fun. That sounds insane to have to purchase, because like Dark Knight's Metal was frustrating. I was following it week to week to week. I was getting the origin stories of the Dark Knights, who are like the spin-off Batman guys, and then I was getting the regular one, but then you also need to get the Cauldron and the Forging, and I missed 1 issue, and it's like, well, I'm done. Like I asked my comic shop, and they're like, we'll get a new print
We
in
might
like
get it
a
eventually.
month, and it's like, well, the new one's out by then, so I just had to give up and wait. And after getting like 2/3, I had to wait until the end and get what's it called? No, I'm not. I'm a spotty reader. That's why I come in for the big events, and then I go back into my corner and hide.
For me, I can't say I hate events. As a kid, I loved events. You know what I mean? When I was reading everything, and Dad was buying all the comics.
Yeah,
and I was all over it. But like, I mean, like even stupid stuff like Final Night, I still remember fondly. You know what I mean? 0 Hour, stuff like that, where they did really cool shit. Nowadays, though, the problem I have is that I'm not invested as much as I love DC, right? And I keep up on everything. I'm not reading everything like I was back in the day. So it's so hard for me to understand, like especially if I'm reading something like, I think when Babstar and Crew was on Batgirl, right? Yeah. And how great Batgirl was, because it's Batgirl of Burnside, it's fashion, it's in the daytime, it's bright, it's neon, I'm like, so great. And then when Death of the Family ran into it. And it was like her having to go out into Gotham and fight Joker in the darkness. It's like, this is weird and doesn't fit the tone of this book. And I feel like you're now stealing what I want away from me to give me that. And I've seen it happen too, of like, you know, I love Spider-Gwen and I love the new Miles Morales run, right? But when I jumped in with Spider-Gwen and I was reading that, I was like, great. And I had them all downloaded on a plane. And I'm going. And it's like, oh, crossover with, oh, fuck. And it was a crossover with her and Miles and the Spider-Women. And it was like, well, I come back and 2 issues now have passed into this. And like, where the fuck are we? Why is this happening? It's like, that sucks. But I still think they can be done well. Obviously, Metal's good. I'm still... it's hit or miss nowadays, but Doomsday Clock is interesting, and I don't think it's going to have the repercussions it was going to have on the universe like it was supposed to, but it's not bad. I'm not against it, but what you're describing, Kayla, sounds insane.
That's what I like about it too, is as someone who's more, I kind of pick my run and I go with it. Like, I'll pick one hero and I'm into it, and that's what I'm doing. And then it's like this event's coming up, like when Edge of the Spider-Verse, they were doing that a while ago. It was cool.
And I think that and Spider-Geddon and Spider-Verse, those are good examples of, you know what,
maybe
this did introduce me to cool Spider-Man that I didn't know about.
It's like the demo disc of comics, like where I'm like, oh, I want to read Spider-Gwen. Oh, they're making Spider-Gwen a thing. Like, that's awesome. Or when Civil War happened, and it was also like, again, a good starting point for me to jump back into it. So, or not Civil War, Secret Wars. I didn't read the new Civil War. You know, there are too many events. Civil War 2, because Civil War 1, or I guess the first like event comic I read was Onslaught.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I remember going to the grocery store with my dad like every week, and we're like, it's Charles Xavier and Magneto.
Oh my God.
Like
no one will be able to
the
stop them.
Yeah, how can they use Onslaught? They beat him with like Beast, like someone was on Beast's back running up on him. It was ridiculous. It was so 90s and insane. And
I think they can blow up in your face, right? Where it's like, for me personally, as somebody who like, I like Marvel and I'm trying to read more Marvel, the whole Thor's whole stuff just doesn't do it for me. And so that it's this War of the Realms and stuff where it's going to be all the mystical, weird Asgard, Midgard. Like, I know that's a big turnoff where I don't care about that storyline really. Even though I saw the McElroys
Sorry.
What?
Nothing.
Why'd you say sorry then?
It wasn't going. I turned it off. I'm smart about it.
Okay, don't worry about it. Anyways, the McElroy brothers are over there. They're doing they're writing some of it, if not, they're doing something involved with it. I saw they're writing some comic book about it, which is cool.
Yeah,
but it's just like, I don't know. And I hope it doesn't then bleed over into the books I am liking. Like,
that's a bummer.
The Miles Morales book I really enjoy, or Friendly Neighborhood, going to suddenly have to do a tie into the realms. It's like,
yeah. Well, one of the biggest. One of the last full runs of a book I read was Superior Spider-Man, which was so long ago. Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't like it. I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
People loved that.
Maybe just the first press was like, well, you're doing this Spider-Man. I thought
you
that was
killed Peter Parker.
I thought it was a beautiful, just amazing story. And they dragged him into a couple things that I would get the volume because I'm just grabbing the volumes way after they're done.
Sure.
And I'm like, I got to do this. And they did the same thing with Snyder and Capullo's run on Batman, where I'd grab book 5 and I'm like, this isn't continuing the story. This is these are 2 random issues that connect to this thing over here. So I guess if you're reading that regularly, it could be pretty annoying.
Superior Spider-Man's back,
Yeah, I want to get
San
that.
Francisco.
I'm excited.
San Francisco. Pretty cool, guys.
San Francisco's where it's at.
Yeah, that's where all the cool comics are popping off. Let's check in with everybody and see what we should be reading. Jericho tossed out a couple things. He's still going on with Vagabond, which was one of our required readings. He's on Vagabond Volume 3 now. I'm repeating myself for sure, but this is becoming my favorite manga series. Musashi learns quickly to become a better swordsman, and while he still has his flaws, mainly with keeping his composure, he is stronger than anyone he's facing up against. The battle against Inshun was exciting, even though they weren't fighting. It was a battle of the minds. Who can withstand the pressure of being in mortal combat? Who is making the first move? Who has the upper hand? It was amazing, and the flashbacks of the previous stuff were great inserts. So that's something. He's also reading Batwoman, Elegy, 2011. A couple of things before I start to praise this book. Guess I already did now. What's about all those strange crotch and ass shots? I mean, Batwoman for sure is a sexy character, but it was kind of weird at some points. Also, lots of spreads were used in which I was a lot of spreads were used, which I usually don't like, but too much on printed media. All right, I'm done. He likes Batwoman. Yeah, I'm done.
Which run of Batwoman is it? Is it
that 2011 would be
the new?
That'd be before Rebirth.
When it was super painterly.
Yeah. Like that. The art style was really good.
Yeah, that was really good. And I loved when they do the spreads. It kind of reminded me French artists where the panels would be bleeding into each other and their hair would kind of frame a couple shots and stuff. They did some really cool artistic stuff with that.
Yeah, he says it's a beautiful short story about a self-made Bat family member. Kate was working hard to be Batwoman, and she deserved to be her. The art and the page designs were on another level, with the flashbacks being drawn in older art styles. Holy Twins Batman, A out of 10.
Right. 8 out of 10. It's amazing. Best book ever. 8 out of 10.
No, A like an A plus. Riley O'Neill says my favorite thing I've read this month is Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. It's beautifully drawn and written fantastically, and every issue starts more interestingly than the last. One of my favorite parts of the story is the relationship between both Hawkeyes and how it introduced me to Kate and every other person in his life. It reminds me I need to go back and get up to date on Sex Criminals and some of his other work. I don't have many original thoughts. I'll just add, go read Hawkeye now. Hawkeye is a great run. Fraction's Hawkeye was a great run. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, that was when I first heard about Fraction.
Yeah,
everyone's just read Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Hawkeye.
And then I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Kayla pops in and says Daredevil #1. If you know, they started doing the Daredevil Man Without Fear stuff. This is my first ongoing Daredevil run, parentheses. Going to rectify this. I know there are many excellent runs. And honestly, for someone who knows Daredevil mostly through the great Netflix show, rest in peace, this was all I ever wanted. I have the first 5 of those downloaded, ready to go, and I am excited to get into them. But yeah, I have not done it yet. I haven't taken the leap.
Is this the new Man Without Fear?
It's the Man Without Fear, just that, yeah. So it's Man Without Fear 2019. They're probably up to issue 4
okay,
now.
Wow, yeah. I used Daredevil as a kid. That the Frank Miller run of Daredevil. That was one of the first books I really got into. My dad gave me, and that one's awesome. And then later in 2010, they had another really brutal run. I forget everyone who worked on it. Of course, it was awesome.
It all becomes mush at some point, right?
I remember I read the Kevin Smith one.
Yep, I remember that one too.
That one was interesting.
Yeah. This one's written by Jed MacKay. So there you go. Let's see what else we got going. Brandon Jackson Shorts talking up Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Of course, Tom Taylor, friend of the show. That's awesome. He brings up Wonder Twins, though, which I haven't ventured into trying. The review on Wonder Twins reads like this. It was fine. Personally, I'm not really a fan of mocking superhero silliness, and this does a lot of that. It spends a lot of time poking fun at the older stuff from comics like the Hall of Justice, the supercomputer, and the powers of the Wonder Twins themselves. While I don't mind that every once in a while, it starts to get annoying after a while. It feels like the writer is embarrassed to be involved with these cheesier aspects, and so he's mocking it, as if to say, hey, I know this is stupid too, please don't pick on me. I much prefer when writers take those outdated concepts, like talking supercomputers, and reimagine it in a cool way, like what Tom King did to Kite Man. Hell yeah. well said. Griffin Vanell says, Deadly Class. Holy shit, I started reading these because of the TV show and Greg's recommendation, and I absolutely loved them. I read the first issue on Comixology Unlimited, and then proceeded to buy every compendium in physical because I can't get enough. Yeah, obviously we love Deadly Class here. That's something Kevin and I say all the time.
Good.
I'm really in love with the show. And surprisingly, Jen's in love with the show, where she'll ask me every week, like, wait, do we have a new Deadly Class to watch? And they're doing a really great job of being true to the comic and then also iterating on it and really reinventing it in a lot of ways, where I think they're doing so much cool shit with Master Lin, where I'm like, man, this isn't where I was thinking. But in the same thing, like, did you read Deadly Class?
No.
In the Vegas,
Good stuff, man.
the Vegas
Everyone
issue,
says it's good.
the Vegas issue, right? And then there's the Vegas episode. They're both very similar. And so like when it ended, Jen was like, that kind of felt like a filler episode. I was like, no. And cracked open the comic and showed her panel by panel, like what they were doing panel by panel on the TV. And I was like, that's fucking really cool. So they're really doing some cool shit there, I think, too. And really good characterizations, making these characters that in the comic that were like unbelievable, more believable, which is actually helpful. So good on them, I say.
That's sweet. That's good.
It's time for I Love This Place. Of course, Joey, this is where somebody writes in and talks about their favorite comic book shop, their local comic book shop. Today, wait, have I been saying it wrong? Oh, no, hold on. Don't panic. Nobody panic. Well, it's my computer. My computer's doing that thing now where it's like, you can't scroll. No, I was saying right. At the end here, I misspelled Brandon. Oh, no. Brandon Jackson Shorts writes in and says, okay, real talk. Ever since Greg mentioned that he was going to be shouting out shops, I've wanted to mention mine. My local comic book shop is Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex in he spelled it out for me. Manioc, Pennsylvania, which is a ride outside of Philadelphia. I've been going there for about three or 4 years now, and I can't really say how much it means to me. Over the years, I've gotten to really know JD, the owner, and I usually spend at least an hour or so shooting the shit with him every week. Over those hours, I've seen him interact with all types of people, and no matter who they are, he does it with a smile. This might seem easy, but some people can be extremely rude and downright mean. However, JD is always accommodating and never fails to try to help people with what they need. If he doesn't have something in the store, he always offers to order things for people, and I've seen him recommend other shops if he thinks they might have what the people want. Considering he risks giving away a customer, I think it shows how dedicated he is to giving people a good experience. When I first started to go to his shop, I was kind of swamped with school/work, and sometimes my bin would have over $60 to $80 worth of comics in it. He would sometimes text me to make sure I was coming to get them, but he never sold them off, as I've heard many shops tend to do, which I greatly appreciated. JD is one of the kindest people I know, and anyone in the Philadelphia area would be crazy not to check him out. And he has a whole podcast network. He usually does weekly comic review shows on his Spoiler Talk podcast, and he does a free-for-all podcast similar to GOG, where he and a friend will talk about a wide range of pop culture topics. Check out Cult Pop for great comic/nerd podcasts. Well, JD sounds like a lovely person.
Sounds like a good guy.
There you go. Thank you very much, Brandon Jackson Shorts. Remember, if you have a comic shop you want to shout out, write in to the participation thread on patreon.com/kindafunny to be part of Greg's comic book club. That's another issue in the books. Can you believe it?
Done.
Joey, did it live up to your expectations?
More so.
Oh, no.
No,
please.
great. Kevin back there yelling stuff.
Yeah.
It's a dream come true.
Yeah. Remember, The Great Wiz and The Ruckus out right now. You can get it. Barnes & Nobles. I'm assuming Amazon, right?
Amazon, Comixology if you want a digital.
Oh, nice.
You know,
you can go to your local comic book store as well, of course.
Yeah, make them carry it.
Exactly. Yell at them. Beat on the doors and get it done. I love the book. You did a great job.
I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming by.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Until next time, Excelsior.